Raw review for the August 25th episode of Raw. I'm Will, that's Brandon. We're the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling podcast. As always, let's cheers, talk about some wrestling.
Go home show for Raw. So obviously them having to go to Paris. Today they are in the UK. So the show's on a little bit earlier. We didn't get to watch it live because we have jobs. But thank you guys. Came and watched it with us. Thank you guys for not spoiling it.
Yeah, 100%. I know that a lot of you guys had already watched it, yet you stopped by the live stream, youtube.com/CodWrestlePod to watch it with us. It was a lot of fun. Let's get right into it, though. Mr. Roman Reigns starts the show, and immediately the crowd presence was there. You got to mention it when they go overseas. The Europe crowds are always spectacular. They were giving them, or him, his Roman Reigns. I mean, they were talking during this opening segment more than anybody else was talking for a lot of it, honestly. But Roman Reigns comes out talking about how he has big plans for his future. But to be honest, he has to acknowledge that the situation is what it is right now, which is he kind of ain't his own self right now. He ain't on the top like he always was. But he says maybe he could be. And then he also says that Cody was right because Seth and all of them eventually came and took everything from him. But one thing I do want to point out is that when he mentioned Cody's name, the crowd booed. And then Roman went, interesting. So there's something to be noted there. Very small note, but it was interesting that the crowd was not a big Cody fan at all there. He said his time will come again, and that brings him to Bronson Reed. But before he could say anything, of course, Paul Heyman comes out, ladies and gentlemen, and he talked about how 5 years ago this week was when he became Roman's guy, the wise man, the tribal chief character began. And he said that he still loves his tribal chief and he acknowledges his tribal chief. But he's here to disrespect him today. He says that he needs tough love, and Bronson Reed is going to go ahead and beat that tough love into Roman Reigns at Clash in Paris. And Roman made a smart little comment where he called Paul Heyman a dumbass and then said he's going to kiss his ass at Clash in Paris because Bronson Reed is going to get his ass whooped by Roman Reigns. So he was being all funny with the whole thing. And that's when Bronson took the mic and said at Clash, it's all about disrespect. He mentioned how his tribe was always oppressed by Roman's tribe, and Roman, bought his tattoo while Bronson Reed earned it, so he made it kind of like a tribal warfare thing, and he told Roman to acknowledge a tribal thief, of course. And that's when Roman basically said, you know what, if you're Samoan, that means I own you because I own the bloodline. So why don't you come down here and give me my shoes? And of course, Bronson Reed did not say yes to that. That's when they start fighting out and about in the ramp area. They start punching the hell out of each other. Security gets out there. Bronson Reed does look like he's going to get the best of them for a moment. Goes up for the tsunami, but security buys Roman enough time to get a Superman punch off, and everybody gets broken up, and everything's wild to end the beginning of the show. So Roman Reigns and Bronson Reed, and Paul Heyman cut a pretty long promo to start the show. I'm going to give it a pop, but it was a slight pop. This was a long one. They kind of didn't really say anything, but you got to set up the match in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting to just, hey, give me my shoes. That's the whole.
Yeah.
So okay. I guess that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to give it a pop. Like you said, it is a slight one. Bronson Reed taking the route of like the, hey, I'm Samoan as well. Like, I know probably I would say a decent amount of WWE fans knew that, but if you did know that, you might be kind of surprised because they've never touched on that before, right? So kind of an interesting way for him to go about it because you're like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, I guess, yeah, sign me up. So I don't know if we're going to end up getting anything else with that. Probably not. It's probably just like a little one-off for Bronson Reed to kind of say that. But yeah, it was fine. I mean, nothing too crazy. Not a lot of build as we head into Clash between these two. Just Bronson Reed kind of taking the shoes, and you're like, okay, well, that's it. There's a done deal. And so it also is one of those things that, admittedly, Bronson Reed is not on the level of Roman Reigns. So you're like, one of these things is not like the other. How do you kind of bridge that? The bridge is Paul Heyman, but at the same time, Paul Heyman is confessing his love for Roman Reigns still. So kind of a weird kind of Paul Heyman thing. Obviously, he's going to backstab him again or betray him again, but it is what it is, but yeah, slight pop here.
Yeah, I mean, I more took away every little thing than I did the actual build up to Bronson Reed versus Roman Reigns. I was very interested, which Roman Reigns said interesting, when the crowd booed Cody and Roman's reaction to that. That was sort of interesting that Roman actually took the time to acknowledge what they said. That was something to note. And then, yeah, Paul Heyman did say multiple times that he still loves and acknowledges his tribal chief. So, There's still something there to dig up eventually whenever we do get the proper Roman Seth feud down the line with Paul Heyman in the middle of it. So in terms of the match, I'm excited for it. It's going to be Tribal Thief versus Tribal Chief. We'll see if Bronson Reed can live up to the moment, but I more took away the little stuff from this entrance.
And last little thing before we move on, Roman Reigns does at one point in this promo say like he will be champion again.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
So,
I mean, he points
so that part comes up again too. So you're like,
he shouts out Jay a little bit. It was a long promo. Yeah, we'll get more to that a little bit later. We walk down. We're backstage. Dom is sneaking behind the Judgment Day to talk to El Grande, and he says, "Don't trip, Chocolate Chip," to Finn when Finn calls him out. Yeah, don't trip, Chocolate Chip. Yeah. So they were walking out to the ring because a Dragon Lee versus JD match was scheduled for the night, and immediately Finn got on the ring apron, and Jessica Carr was not having it from Finn Balor. The second he got on that apron, she was like, "You leave." I was like, "What? He didn't do anything yet." Okay, so he gets booted, and Dragon Lee and JD end up having a great match, as you would assume. I mean, there was a little bit of like stutter in the like Netflix today, WWE. So part of the match you just couldn't see, and even on the replay feed, we didn't get to see most of it. But the little match we did see, we saw Dragon Lee doing every big move to JD. JD was just eating everything. And then we get back, we see AJ Styles is there with Dom. Like, we just come back from the stuttering TV, and Dom's on the apron. AJ Styles is there, distracts JD, and AJ chases Dom into the crowd. Dragon Lee gets the Operation Dragon Drop, which is his finisher, and gets the win over JD. This was a good match. It sucks that a lot of it got cut off because of the feed thing, but this was good. I'll pop it.
Yeah, and also when you watch, so obviously, like I said, we didn't get to watch it live, so we had to watch it after. They cut out all of the commercial break spots. So apparently JD got a lot of offense in during those commercial breaks.
Yeah.
We don't know. We didn't get to see it.
Yeah.
So we can't really speak on that. But yeah, match is fine. I understand the story, and this is kind of a running theme throughout the night that Judgment Day is just kind of a bunch of losers, it seems, is kind of the thought process here. But it was kind of like hey, why are we having this match? Why is Dragon Lee fighting JD? I mean, I understand they like to have the European superstars when they go over there. That might be why, but does that lead to maybe Dragon Lee getting somebody in LWO a tag title shot? Who really knows? But you had your tag team champion take a 1-2-3 pin here from Dragon Lee, just kind of like, oh, all right, here we go.
I just popped it because what I did see was good.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to dissect the reason behind it and what's happening in Judgment Day in terms of like their singles action, how every one of their matches gets distracted and that ends up getting somebody pinned, like that's a whole different conversation for another day, and we can have that, and that is valid at the moment. But in terms of this match, I like seeing Dragon Lee doing what he does. I love JD. I love it. Pop it. Then we have an LA Knight interview, and we had 3 interviews throughout the night here, so we're gonna knock them out because it's the 3 people who are fighting Seth Rollins this Sunday at Clash in Paris. Come watch it with us on our YouTube. Yep. He basically said that he called out Punk's accident last week when Punk got shoved into him, and LA Knight ended up going through a table. And he said, was it really an accident? Because dude shrugged after he did it. So even if it was an accident, he obviously had no remorse and he did not care. He said that Punk is hungry and he's trying to take all of us out, but everybody's hungry because there's not enough rations on the table for all of us. And then he turns his attention to his match that he has later on the night, which is Mr. Braun Breaker. And he says, I'm gonna smack Braun tonight. So there's that. And then later in the night, we get CM Punk interviewing, and he basically acknowledges that LA Knight doesn't believe him, and he doesn't really care because he says that all he wanted to do was to get Jay, Punk, and LA Knight on the same page that, yes, we're fighting each other, but the real problem here is the vision overall. So that's Punk's point of view. And then Jay's just kind of being Jay, and kind of his nerves are going. And then the camera pans over, and Roman Reigns is there to give him some good advice. And Roman basically tells him, like, first off, never trust CM Punk. So I don't care what he's trying to do. Don't trust him. That was obvious at WrestleMania. Second, you've done all this for yourself, bro. Like, you're the big dog now. You can handle this. Do what you do. So he's hyping Jay up. So, and in terms of all that stuff, that was some good storytelling tonight. I like that. We had a really good build in terms of for the 3 people who are facing Seth Rollins. They're not going into this match all lovey-dovey with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is exactly kind of how it needs to be. And then you kind of also have like the CM Punk LA Knight like feud within the feud. It seems to be kind of like a real high point, right? That's good stuff for me, right? They can both talk on a mic. So if, let's just say they eventually want to run something with those 2 down the line after maybe Clash, sign me up for something like that. Jay being a little bit hesitant, I guess, was kind of surprising to see for me. I guess like we haven't seen that surprise Jay in a little bit. And I feel like he only gets that way when he is around Roman. So like maybe I should have expected that. But still, it was kind of surprising that I was like, oh, I'm used to that confident Jey Uso. That confident Jey Uso that we just saw challenge Braun Breaker to an Extreme Rules match on Raw. Like I wanted to see that fiery kind of Jey Uso. So interesting element there to have him kind of questioning himself in the presence of Roman. So maybe that is something more further down the line. But in terms of all three of the challengers, like you said, great way to kind of give them their own time, give them their own story, which you really kind of have to do in the Fatal 4-Way stuff anyway. Seth Rollins is obviously already built, so let's create stories for each of these individuals and past. It was all good stuff there.
I like Roman being a mentor to Jay too. I kind of like that. He hasn't apologized. People are going to keep saying that he hasn't apologized. Well, I think he's apologized through his actions when he took the spear in their match. And then I think he's just, tonight he gave Jay his flowers in the first promo, and then he was, hyping him up in the back. So I think Roman's on his side more than ever. And so that whole arc, I think, is kind of done, and that like they trust each other. We're good. There doesn't need to be an apology.
Yeah. I think they trust each other, but it's more of, for me, like Jay still doesn't feel like he is to that level.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like, oh, maybe that's
go win the title.
Something. Yeah, maybe that's something down the line. It does sound to me, or seem to me, like you're really kind of almost setting up early for Survivor Series between the Vision and this Punk, Jay, maybe Roman. Who knows, right?
Yeah. True. We would get Rusev and Sheamus promos. They're going to be in a Donnybrook match, okay? And they don't like each other very much. They mentioned that Rusev's been in a year-long feud with them, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know if that was a slip of the words or what it was, but yeah.
I guess it is.
We've said enough.
I guess it is a year-long feud because it technically,
fair. Also, Judgment Day's backstage after JD lost, and Finn's like, you got yourself a AJ problem, and Dom's like, okay, well, how about you go solve that and challenge him to a match? And Finn says, okay. So we get that match later on, too.
And Raquel does mention Liv again. She says Liv wouldn't like this.
Yeah,
which is all the bickering back and forth.
Then we come back, and Penta's fighting Kofi Kingston. Bada bang, bada boom. And obviously, Kofi's with the New Day, which is Xavier Woods and Grayson Waller. They are on the outside. Penta would get hot really early, and Kofi would decide to just run. He ran out of the ring. And then, of course, we didn't have our commercial, so we don't know how he got the advantage. But we get back, and Kofi's beating the hell out of Penta.
He got that.
He flipped him over.
On the table.
He flipped him onto the table. So Kofi's really hot. He even reversed the Mexican driver and hit a famouser, which was really cool. Penta hit the Penta driver, and Kofi clean kicked out of it. Definitely thought the New Day were going to kick his feet up or something, but no, Kofi just gets the kick out of it. It was pretty good. Eventually, though, Grayson Waller is holding papers and stuff tonight, taking notes for the New Day, and Penta slides through the ropes and drop kicks him, and he falls on his back, and his glasses break, and the papers go flying up. It was perfect. Grayson nailed it. And Penta also uses that moment to suicide dive into Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, which is really good. But eventually, though, Waller would get back on the apron, distract Penta, and that's when Kofi would hit the Trouble in Paradise. 1, 2, 3. Kofi Kingston actually gets the win here. And I am going to give this a pop. I thought out of all this recent New Day stuff, I thought this was entertaining tonight. I liked how Grayson Waller was involved. I think Penta just does great work, so you can't miss with him. So overall, I thought this was a step in the right direction for the New Day stuff. I'll actually pop it this time.
Yeah, and I agree 100% if that's the look at you want to take. I guess there's two different stories here. There's the New Day story, which is hey, this is good stuff. They're actually making Grayson Waller do things to where Kofi and Xavier are probably going to end up accepting him, and they kind of have no choice, right?
Yeah.
And maybe those are a team that can challenge for those tag titles again. I guess we'll wait and see. Who really knows? I'm going to look at this. I'm going to drop this, though, from the side of the Penta side.
Yep.
I know we talk each and every week about Penta has bangers. Penta has great matches. Penta's a star. But at this point, for me, it's just kind of what are we doing with Penta? Is that the only plan? I know, at least when he came over, it seemed like Penta was kind of the next big star, right? And they really kind of viewed Penta as that way. But right now, it's just kind of okay, cool. We just get 10-minute Penta matches, and they're bangers, and they're great. And maybe that's me reading too much into it and being hey, you just have to accept this for what it is. But I wanted a little bit more from Penta maybe at this point, maybe an IC title run if you're going to do all these banger matches, open challenges. But I'm also not going to complain too much about it.
I like this, and we'll talk about this because we went on stream a little bit. It's a little bit of a tangent, but Penta, this is a thing that's getting brought up a lot. Penta's usage. At this point, is it easy to use hindsight and say that maybe Penta should have won the IC title at WrestleMania, given how Dom has been used with it since? Because Dom, hasn't done anything that needed the Intercontinental title around his waist for since then. We love that he won it, but he hasn't needed the title. Penta is now kind of stuck in the New Day stuff, and he's just kind of getting thrown in the match here and there. Would it have been better to just give Penta the title at Mania and let him do an IC title run with great matches?
I would say, yeah. It hurts me to say that because it hurts me to, take the title away from Dom. And Dom had such a great moment and everything, and it's kind of building that next star. But that IC title is always kind of like a workhorse title, right? And Penta would be the workhorse for Monday Night Raw. I would argue that he is. So you could have all these great matches and have him just with the title every week. It'd be like an open challenge. At least you have a reason to really kind of buy into Penta, right? There's at least some stock there. And then ultimately you could have run him and AJ again some way, somehow. Like you still could have got to that same endpoint. I understand like AJ probably wants to work with Dom and he's spoken really highly of Dom and things like that. But at the same time, you don't even have Dom really kind of displaying the IC title at times. I mean, he wears a shirt with the IC title on it, but most of the time I don't see Dom carrying the IC title. He's not really in matches anymore. Like Dom's usage since he got the IC title just feels like a miss. And maybe that is hindsight. I'd say it probably is, but you could look at it, you could second guess it, but ultimately it's a choice they made.
Look, I mean, the moment at WrestleMania is amazing, and I would never take it away. And I love Dom, and I want him to be Intercontinental Champion, but it's just like, it's not Dom's fault. It's how WWE has booked Dom since he's had that title. We've had like one actual feud, and then this AJ thing that's been going on, which is like neither here nor there in my opinion. But like Penta is a guy who's just been showing up randomly, putting on great matches almost weekly. And it's like, well, that could have worked with the IC title around his waist instead of having Dom barely around on Raw. He's booked great on AAA. If he was booked like he was on AAA on Raw, hell yeah, he should be IC champion. But at the moment, it just feels like, okay, Dom's just kind of the guy doing the AAA stuff, and he does some funny moments on Raw here and there, but does he really need to be our IC champion? I'm going to go ahead and say no.
Yeah, and it, like I said, it pains me to kind of say this, but you think about it, from WrestleMania to, well, we have a match next week, AJ versus Dom for that IC title. And you really look at those months and you're like, nothing really happened with that IC title.
Yeah, we'll get right into that actually, because Adam Pearce announced that next week on Monday Night Raw, it will be Dom Mysterio versus AJ Styles for the Intercontinental Championship. And it might be time to take that title off Dom at this point.
Yeah, I think it's a great time to take that title off of Dom if there is one. I mean, yes, you could have Dom dose belts was a great idea that we have. Well, honestly, I don't know why you'd run this match back again if you're not going to give it to AJ. So I think Dom is going to lose that belt. I mean, you do have Dom and AAA on the 12th, right after SmackDown. He challenges Vikingo. So you could at least have that. And maybe Dom can win that AAA title there. So that'd kind of be like an upgrade there, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'm down with him just winning the AAA title. If they want to have something screwy happen at Raw and AJ ends up walking away with the belt, fine by me, because I'm under the impression that we should get a John Cena AJ Styles match down the line. If the IC title is on the line there, that'd be really cool. I love Dom to death. I don't want him to lose, but if you're going to, he's booked better in AAA anyways. Let's go do the AAA thing, give him the belt there and have him look like an absolute star. And then on Monday Night Raw, he can continue what he's doing, which is kind of just being the funny guy of Judgment Day at the moment. So I want better for Dom. And in order for that to happen, I think he might need to drop the belt.
Yeah, and you could always have it where Finn tries to help, and Finn ends up costing him, which is kind of what we've said time and time again.
So moving on, though, we would have Rhea. She's getting ready backstage. Io walks up to her, of course, because last week's fiasco with the Kabuki Warriors getting pissed off at Io, well, mostly Asuka. And she said, look, thank you for helping me, but I think, Asuka's not too happy. We should probably stay away from each other for a little bit. And in the background, you can see Asuka and Kairi Sane are seeing this happen. They can't hear it. They can see it. They're not happy. Io gives Rhea a big old hug, which looks even worse on paper to the Kabuki Warriors.
Sees them talking, and obviously it's like, hey, we'll go our separate ways. It's been fun. Just a nice little friendship hug, respectful hug.
Yeah, but they don't know that.
Yeah, they don't know that.
They don't know that.
Storms off. She's mad.
And before anything bigger happens, we had Adam Pearce talking to Steph. And he breaks the news that we don't get a Stephanie Vicaire title match at Clash in Paris. But he also breaks the news that he knows the opponent Stephanie's going to face for the title, but he won't tell her till next week. Who do we think it could be?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I really have no idea. We did throw around the idea of Bayley. If you're going to continue to kind of, I guess, really kind of put your eggs in the basket of Bayley, right? Some type of heel champion or an interesting champion with this split personality stuff that we'll get to here in a little bit is really interesting. You could obviously have a feud for that title right there. Her and Lyra sounds pretty good to me. why not? I know Lyra pinned Bailey a few times, but oh well, right? That's wrestling. It happens. They're obviously going to kind of keep doing this. So go ahead and at least give me something with like an interesting character. I know you could maybe bring some people over or call somebody up, but I have no idea who that would be. So I'll just go with the safe bet, I guess, and say Bailey.
I think at this point it has to be either Bailey or Lyra, because if you look at it, Rhea and Io are now officially stuck in the tag stuff whenever that's happening with the Kabuki Warriors. That whole story is brewing. You can't just rip one out and be like, okay, well, now you're in the title scene. And then, that would just shake things up in the wrong way, I think. So I'm with you on that. I do think it has to be Bailey or Lyra. And then I'm also with you on, like, you could call somebody up, but then they would just be skipping a roster full of women that are like crazy good. Like, I can't see an NXT call up just skipping over Rhea and skipping over Io. So you look at the plate and it's like, well, Lyra and Bailey aren't technically in something right now, like in terms of wrestling ring matches stuff. So if you want to just throw one of them at Steph and call it a match, like, I'll take it. So
yeah, and there's a lot smarter people out there that probably have better thoughts on this, but I honestly have no idea, which at times can be a good thing, but right now it's very clear WWE doesn't know what to do, and I'm not saying that they should, because obviously Naomi was going to hold that belt for a really long time. But to delay it for another week, just to delay it another week, seems kind of funny.
Agreed. Becky Lynch comes out here. She she starts with, they're in UK, right? Where Becky's from. And she said that
from Ireland.
But she says that you can boo me, but I started my wrestling career here in Birmingham. That's where she started wrestling. And she says it was a dump then and it's a dump now. So it just flips on the crowd right there. I mean, she is just absolutely great with this stuff. And she also calls Nikki a dump. And that's when Nikki Bella comes out to the ring. And she made a comment about how she's a dog or something, how Becky Lynch is the dog. And then Nikki came out and she says, if you aren't a dog, then why are you acting like such a bitch? And that's when Becky gets all pissed off. So Becky was doing a bunch of good heel work with the crowd here tonight. So basically every rebuttal also was a rebuttal at the crowd, getting big boos. Becky was doing absolutely great work here. But Becky eventually agrees to Nikki Bella's title shot ask at Clash in Paris, not here in Birmingham, because they're trash. They don't deserve it at all. But that's when Nikki Bella just literally takes the title off Becky Lynch's shoulder. They're standing 3 feet apart, and Becky just reaches over, takes the title off Becky's shoulder, puts it on her own shoulder, and then holds it up and says they're going to be calling Bella the champion at Clash in Paris. And that's when Becky Lynch would attack. They trade almost finishers throughout. Becky eventually slides out of the ring after getting out of the Nikki's finisher. Nikki holds up the title, so she stands tall at the end, holding up the title, and then she throws it at Becky Lynch. But it's now official, Clash in Paris. We will have Becky Lynch, Nikki Bella for the Intercontinental Championship. We all saw it coming, and this is great. Popping it.
Yeah, I'm going to pop this as well. As much as, I don't know, this feud, like, to me, it's going to sound like I'm going to hate here, but Becky Lynch is the one doing the most of the carrying, which I think we thought was going to happen. Becky Lynch is doing some great, fantastic work. Nikki Bella's lines at times have been kind of weird, like questioning if Becky Lynch is going to be a Hall of Famer and saying that Bella's going to be, I guess Nikki Bella's a bigger name than Becky Lynch ever will be, which I was like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess depends who you ask here. But in terms of Becky Lynch, great heel work. She's arguably maybe the best heel in WWE right now, depending on who you ask, right? She had a great promo on SmackDown as well. So she's just continuing to be fantastic, continuing to be great. And honestly, I think the match is going to surprise some people. Maybe the build's a little bit shaky, right? In terms of like, oh, okay, well, should I really buy into it? But I think the match is going to be pretty solid. So I have some pretty high expectations for this. I think it's going to be good. Becky Lynch is once again really kind of solidifying that women's IC title, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, Becky's amazing. I mean, it's going to be a good match. I expect it to be a better match than most people think, because I think Nikki Bella is going to be able to show up with someone as great as Becky Lynch leading her in the ring. Becky's done all the carrying in terms of the mic work. I will agree with that. I think Nikki's lines have been a little bit like here and there, a bit hit and miss, but also they've only been able to do this twice. I know we had to do the Natalya and Maxine stuff to just solidify kind of what Becky Lynch is as a heel. So like that was necessary, but at the same time, I wish we got like 1 or 2 more nights like this. But I'm looking forward to the match. It should be good. And, Becky Lynch is probably going to walk away with it anyways, as she should. So it's going to be good.
She loses, and then she's, now she's in the main title scene.
Yeah, she could do that, I guess. She could do that, I guess. We move on, though. It was Rhea Ripley versus Roxanne Perez in a singles match. Raquel would get involved right away, and it was still Jessica Carr at ref. but she didn't kick out Raquel this time. I mean, Finn barely batted an eye at her, and he got kicked out to the back. But Raquel was able to distract, and that led to Roxanne getting a dive on Rhea, and then her leg was kind of tweaked on the dive, and Roxanne would work that leg the entire freaking match. Rhea would get a moment of big time, moves, her comeback, and she'd go for a razor's edge, but Raquel was able to pull Rox down with her foot.
Right in front of Jessica Carr.
Right in front of Jessica
I don't know how
Carr.
Jessica Carr didn't see that one.
She was looking up
Some of the
lights.
other ones, okay.
It was that old Kurt Angle meme where he's looking up before Triple H hits him. That was Jessica Carr in the ring today. But eventually, Rhea Ripley goes for a drop kick. Roxanne moves out of the way, and she ends up hitting Raquel. And this gives, obviously, Rhea the right to beat up on Roxanne because there's no more Raquel. Rhea gets the riptide on Roxanne Perez, gets the win. But Raquel jumps up and attacks. And they're stomping a mud hole into Rhea Ripley when Io Sky does come out. Even though she just said that they need to take their distance, she comes out. She helps Rhea Ripley. They get rid of Raquel and Roxanne pretty easily. Boom, boom. They kick them. They hug in the ring and they celebrate. After the match, we would have Io and Rhea basically say, thank you. Rhea says thank you to Io. Io says, look, I know I was supposed to stay away, but I owed you one, so I'm coming out to do that. Asuka gets in her face. Rhea walks away. Asuka's screaming at Io Sky. Asuka storms away. Kairi does a double take and says, I'm sorry to Io, and she splits and goes the way of Asuka. So Io this week comes out to save Rhea Ripley. Kabuki Warriors are done with Io, man. I think it's about time for Io Sky, Rhea Ripley versus Kabuki Warriors. Popping all this.
Yeah, I'm going to pop this as well. I don't know when we're going to get this.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we could get it on a Raw, but Raw doesn't feel like the right place. There's WrestlePalooza, but I don't know if that's the right place. You're obviously not getting at Clash. There's Perth. Like, there's all these different options they could do, right? But this is going to be awesome. It's going to be great. You got 4 of the best in-ring wrestlers on the planet going at each other, so sign me up. We've already seen a little bit of Io and Rhea as a tag team, and that was really fun. Really enjoyed that. We already know what the Kabuki Warriors can do, so that's awesome. That's great. I honestly kind of want the Kabuki Warriors to get the win here, and you can kind of have like a long tag team feud just because I think it would be fun, and I would really enjoy that. Ultimately, whoever kind of wins this can challenge Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss down the line for those women's tag titles. I think that would be great as well. So all in all, just really good stuff. I mean, like we said, it's a little bit interesting to see, hey, you could literally take any of these women and put them in the main title scene at any point, and nobody would bat an eye. I mean, I guess maybe Kairi Sane, right? You'd be like, but either way, whatever, right? She's great. She's fantastic. But you look at it and you're like, okay, well, they're really bought in on this storyline. They really want this to happen. And you could really kind of feel that. It's fun. It's exciting. It's actually a reason to care about this.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. We've talked about it multiple weeks. Everybody kind of sees what's coming, but we're finally getting there slowly. I'm more interested in like what's eventually going to full on break the camel's back here with Asuka, because she's eventually going to be the one that snap on Io and beat her up at some point here, and Kairi's going to eventually have to join in too. So it feels like Io's going to have to do something that draws a line even for Kairi. So I'm looking forward to whatever that's going to be. It's just good old storytelling, and it feels so great to have Rhea and Io doing something of meaning, of value on Raw that isn't wrapped up in the freaking title scene for once. So I'm very happy with this overall story, and I'm looking forward to what's next. We move on, though. Finn versus AJ Styles is happening. Yeah, Finn would control the match early. Yeah, I mean, back in Corey Graves even mentioned it. Like, if this was happening 5-10 years ago, holy God.
I mean, they did it in that one match, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
it was a big no-no apparently.
I guess not. Finn controls the match early. He did this drop kick to AJ and he flew off the apron. It was kind of hard to watch. But they basically put on a Finn Balor AJ Styles match. There's nothing too crazy amazing here, but it's just perfect technical wrestling between the two of them. Highly enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. Eventually, though, they get into like a roll-up battle. It was kind of like what Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria did in their matches, but Finn Balor and AJ Styles, they were trying to roll each other up, and all of a sudden, somehow, AJ rolls up Finn directly into the Styles Clash after they just rolled up each other 10 times, hits the Styles Clash, 1, 2, 3. AJ Styles gets the win over Finn Balor, and that rolls over to what we talked about earlier when Adam Pearce eventually said we're getting a title match. But this was Finn Balor. It was AJ Styles on a Monday Night Raw with a clean finish. Never going to complain. Popping it.
Yeah, actually, I'll have one complaint. I wish it was longer.
That's true. That's true.
That's kind of one of those things. They do these short matches with these guys that are obviously so phenomenal. You like that? Phenomenal. Fantastic, I could have went that way.
Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. They're two of the top-notch guys, right? I mean, know what you're gonna get. It's just kind of like a dang. I wish we had a feud for some sort of title, right? And maybe an IC title down the line, maybe sort of. I don't know. Who knows, right? But wishful thinking there. But it's fantastic stuff. It's one of those things that both these guys are getting older. AJ's talked about, hey, I don't know how many more years I got left. Maybe 1 year left, potentially. Who knows with Finrad? I know he signed like a 5-year deal, but you don't really know how many more of these you got left, so you just kind of enjoy them. You take them for what they're worth.
Yeah, nothing more to say. It was a good match. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I want to see it more. Let's move it on, though. We would have Bailey. We talked about her a little bit earlier, but this was a cool little... she's still in that room, so someone needs to get Bailey out of that room.
It's like Aleister Black.
Been 3 weeks. She's in that room.
Time?
Yeah, when Aleister Black was trapped in the room. But this time, it was not just random voices. There was a line drawn. And she was getting talked to by her hugger self from the NXT early WWE main roster days and her role model, heel self. And it was basically the equivalent of the devil and the angel on her shoulders, basically. And they were arguing with each other. And the hugger Bailey was saying, you did so well when you were me, basically. And then the role model said, no, you were an idiot. And everybody took advantage of you and blah, blah, blah. And then eventually Bailey got pissed off to the point because she could hear the voices where she just yelled, stop. And then they went away. So Bailey's still being crazy like that. Lyra does talk to Adam Pearce and say someone needs to check on her. That was all we got from Lyra tonight, which sucks. But Bailey's continuing to do this split personality thing. We spoke about how we wouldn't mind seeing her immediately get catapulted into the Steph scene if that's where they want to put her. But I'm interested. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting character.
Yeah.
I know they've tried, not WWE, but there have been promotions and companies that have tried stuff like this before. So we'll see how this kind of goes. Who knows what extent it goes to, right? Maybe the gear is maybe half and half.
That'd be sick.
That would be awesome.
Half ponytail.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Half.
I don't think they'll go that far, but if they did, but it would look really cool though. It would play right into it, and obviously, hopefully, the in-ring stuff too. I would like it. I know the in-ring stuff isn't like. There's not much of a difference between role model and hugger Bailey in terms of like move set, but the way she goes about it, maybe she starts to be a heel at one point in the match, and then she like apologizes to the opponent because, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that, and then she goes back and forth. Something like that. The possibilities are kind of endless with this.
I can see her hugging a kid in the front row and then calling her an idiot afterward.
Breaks glasses or something.
That'd be hilarious. I'm down. Do all that, especially give her some new music. Can we all agree on that at least?
Well, you say new music, it's just going to be a combination. Everything's been a combination with her.
But she's had 2 horrible songs. So you can't just combine 2 horrible songs. We go to our main event, or before our main event, we're following Paul Heyman, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed to the ring. When all of a sudden, Roman Reigns out of nowhere just decides to, he basically spears Braun Breaker into like the boxes that they have, and then he Superman punches Bronson Reed, and then the security's already there. There's already 50 of them there. So they were watching the whole thing, but they were able to split them up, and Roman Reigns is laughing. He's getting taken away. Bronson Reed is out. Adam Pearce is pissed off, and he's like, well, you still got a match, Braun Breaker, so get out there.
He's got no care.
Yeah, he's got no care. He's like, oh, you're booked, brother. Get out there. And before Braun Breaker can even like respond to Pearce, LA Knight's there because our match is LA Knight versus Braun Breaker. And LA Knight's beating the hell out of Braun Breaker, and he beats him all the way to the ring. So we follow him with the camera. They kind of fight. He throws him into like the set, like the entrance ramp and the entrance, Tron and all this stuff. And eventually we would get our match. But that's a hell of a way to start the match. I love that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Braun ends up destroying LA Knight for most of this match. He turns the tide on him, and he's talking smack the entire time too. It was great. Braun Breaker, them letting him do that whole like talking smack as he's kicking ass thing. That just needs to be his character, period. It's so good. It's all the time. Mm-hmm. He hits a Frankensteiner, all this good stuff, but he would go for like a running spear, and LA Knight would get his foot up, high boot him, and Braun would sell it like he died, which was great. And that's when LA Knight would get really hot. He'd hit the top rope elbow drop that he does, and Seth didn't even wait for a pin. Seth was there. Music hits, and he sprints out. He's wearing a full green jacket. I thought it looked good today.
That's pretty good.
It looked good.
That's pretty good.
He sprints out, and LA Knight, he doesn't get in the ring, and LA Knight's an idiot, and he's like, I'll get out of the ring and chase you then, Seth. And then he chases Seth around the ring. Stephanie Velcro's out there. And he chases Seth around the ring right into a Braun Breaker spear. And he spears the socks off LA Knight, gets him in the ring, spears the socks off him again, puts the socks back on him, then spears him back off. He gets the pin. 1, 2, 3. Braun Breaker does end up getting the win, but of course Seth Rollins is there to attack. He attacks the hell out of LA Knight until Jey Uso shows up. And Jey gets rid of Braun Breaker right away, and then he beats up on Seth for a little bit, but then Braun Breaker gets back up, enough time to distract Jey Uso so Seth can pedigree him. It's the schmoss that's happened at the end of every Raw right now, right? For the past month. You guys know what we're talking about. Punk comes out. Really cool thing here, though. When Punk's attacking Braun Breaker, there's no music, but the crowd's singing his song. Very cool, like visual. Very cool. So they're just fighting, but you can hear the crowd singing every word.
Well, and he pushes Braun into the post, and then he gets on the apron, and Seth and him are having a stare down, and the crowd is still singing, and you're like, oh, this is one of those moments. Like that's one of those moments that you're like, that's goosebumps.
They're like multiple verses into Cult of Personality at this point. So it was just a really, really cool thing. Eventually, though, they would, the schmoz would happen. They're attacking, and Seth would roll out of the ring, and the Vision would back up to the entrance ramp. And that leaves the other three, Jey Uso, LA Knight, and CM Punk in the ring. And CM Punk steps over LA Knight to get up his boy Jay. And that's when LA Knight was pissed. Like, why the hell did you do that? So they start to argue back and forth. Jay tries to break them up. LA Knight shoves Jay, but Jay's kind of still sitting there like, what the hell, man? LA Knight goes for the BFT on CM Punk. CM Punk pushes him into Jey Uso. Jay gets up, says, okay, I saw that happen. I'm still going to super kick LA Knight in the face. Super kicks LA Knight. CM Punk's like, oh, good idea. Okay, we're on good terms. Nope. Jey Uso super kicks the mouth off of CM Punk as well. And that's how we end here. Oh, and Seth Rollins the entire time is like guiding the Vision. He's like, look what's happening. My masterpiece is happening, basically. So Raw ends with CM Punk, LA Knight, and Jey Uso not getting along. It looks like the three people who are taking on Seth Rollins for the championship are now just completely not friends. All chaos going into Clash in Paris this weekend. All pops from me.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it. A lot of the Raws have kind of ended the same way over the last month, and you're like, well, we're going to get a Fatal 4-Way, but like, what do we get? Well, this is kind of the best way to kind of just wrap that up and put a nice little bow on it, right? The three guys can't get along, so now they're all mad at each other. Seth Rollins is sitting there just laughing, obviously, hysterically. This is awesome. This is great stuff. Interested to see, it looks like Jey Uso is going to play a pretty big part. I thought Jey Uso was probably just going to take the pin. I'm not saying Jey Uso won't take the pin here. He might still end up being the guy that takes the pin, but looks like he's playing a bigger part in it than what I kind of originally thought. Roman telling Jay to not trust CM Punk. And even at times, like when Seth was pointing, saying, look, and laughing, like Jay's standing in the corner, like also observing CM Punk and LA Knight going at it. So like he also sees that as well. So going to be interesting to see kind of what Jey Uso does and how big of a part he plays in the match, because obviously you got CM Punk and LA Knight. They hate each other. They're going at each other all the time. You obviously think Seth Rollins and the Vision are going to, I guess, just have shenanigans to where Seth ends up retaining. So that's kind of my biggest question, I guess, would be what kind of happens with Jey Uso in this match and after this match?
Yeah. I mean, Jay is like, throughout this whole thing, it has been focused on more of like the LA Knight CM Punk aspect of the Seth Rollins bubble, right? Jey Uso got inserted into that tonight. We were all kind of looking for a reason of like, why did Jay really get added to this match? Well, Roman comes out at the beginning and he gives Jay his flowers. He's hyping him up at the end. And then at the very end here, Jay's looking around like, you know what? I see through all this BS. I'm just going to super kick everybody. I'm going to stand on my business. And that's why I'm in this match, to go get that title. And I don't really care about any of you anymore. So that's really cool to see of Jey Uso. I like that attitude from him. I'm very interested in like who gets the pin here, because you're right. You're going to have a schmoz happen at Clash in Paris where there's all the Vision running in. So it's going to be chaotic. At this point, I don't know who's taking the pin. All I know is that we're not going to walk away with a new champion. But I had a lot of fun at the end of Raw tonight. So it was all good stuff. I'm ready for Clash.
Yeah, a lot of fun. You got to think the Vision make an appearance. You got to think Roman somehow makes an appearance too into that. I mean, who knows? I guess it depends how the Bronson Reed Roman match goes. If Bronson Reed tsunamis Roman Reigns like 12 times, you're not getting Roman Reigns, but who knows, right? So some big developments could be happening here at the end of Clash of Paris.
Yeah, looking forward to all of it. It's a good Raw. 13 pops, 1 drop. I don't know if it was that. I didn't hate anything about it. So
well, we also were lucky enough we didn't get to watch it with commercials or anything, so everything kind of
it flowed.
It was that it flows a lot easier when you're not getting broken up every.
Very true. So a good pop that we gave it here tonight. We want to thank you all once again for stopping by our live stream, youtube.com/@CODWrestlePod. We'll be live for SmackDown Clash of Paris as well. So come join us there. And of course, Raw SmackDown after that as well. So just join us there. And then for everything else, it's @CODWrestlePod, COD WrestlePod. We have a link tree tree in our bio. It'll lead you to our Discord if you want to join that. And then our TikToks, including our TikTok reacts, where you'll see our reactions that happened on our live stream with footage from the show. So go ahead and check that out. But I'm Will. That's Brandon. We're the COD Wrestle Pod, and we'll see you next time.